We would like to begin this campaign by paying respects to the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of the land on which we live and receive an education on. Do you know how many bad sunburns between the age of 15 and 20 it takes to significantly increase your risk of developing melanoma? Well, we thought we would ask some uni students.
Great question. Maybe 30?
Like 12?
8 to 9 minimum. Maybe even 10 times.
I'd probably say around 10 sunburns. Well, shockingly, it takes as few as 5 sunburns between these late teenage years to significantly increase your risk of developing melanoma. We believe that the aforementioned statistic is just one of many that highlights the need for educating people on melanoma, particularly those between the ages of 12 and 25, who we have chosen as our target audience. Skin cancer and melanoma, more specifically, pose a particularly great risk to Australians. This is due to the population's love for the outdoors, the fact that 80% of the country reside within coastal zones, and the depletion of the ozone layer, which allows for greater amounts of UVB to reach the Earth's surface.
Many people first notice signs of melanoma when they notice moles change in colour, size, and become irregular in shape. As well as this, some other common symptoms include itching and bleedings of mole or lesion. Your skin continuously renews cells 24/7, which is achieved by copying the already present cells and their DNA. Damage occurs when unprotected skin is exposed to UV radiation from the sun, tanning beds, and lamps. In response to UV-induced DNA damage, skin keratinocytes produce a melanocyte-stimulating hormone, which binds to a specific receptor called the melanocortin receptor 1 on the melanocytes. This will then produce and release melanin. Melanin is responsible for skin color, but also operates as a shield from UV radiation, preventing further DNA alterations. When the amount of UV-induced damage exceeds the protection provided by the melanin, a sunburn will form. Prolonged exposure to the sun leads to damage to the melanocyte DNA that forms mutations in the cells. During melanoma development, the DNA damage to the melanocytes allow them to proliferate uncontrollably, forming tumors. This occurs because there is a loss of factors that control growth, such as cell cycle regulation, programmed cell death, and tumor suppressors. Eventually, the melanoma will take control of the gain-of-function mutations, allowing it to spread to other body regions through the bloodstream or lymphatic system. It is simple to monitor by looking out for changes in color, shape, and size in existing or new moles. If any of these signs come up or you just want reassurance, skin checks with your local GP, dermatologist, or skin cancer clinic are available. They will typically conduct a thorough physical examination to check for abnormal birthmarks, moles, and other pigmented areas. Further testing measures like excisional biopsies are normally done and sent off for pathology testing to determine if the lesion or mole is benign or cancerous, and the type of tumour. The pathologist will typically look for further details that can assist in how the tumour can be expected to behave and progress. Use of imaging tests like X-rays, CT scans, and MRIs are used in the more advanced stages to determine the extent of the metastases. Treatment and/or management normally depends on the stage of cancer. Still excited about cracking open that new bottle of Barley Body? Why don't we get stuck into some statistics?
The treatment of melanoma may involve surgical removal of the melanoma, immunotherapy, targeted therapy, chemotherapy, and radiation. However, this depends on the stage of the disease and what the doctor advises is best suited for you.
Did you know that Australia has one of the highest melanoma rates in the world due to factors such as climate, proximity to the equator, which leads to high UV levels, and social behaviours? Around 1 in 30 Australians are diagnosed with melanoma every 30 minutes, and 1 person dies as a result of the disease every 6 hours. Additionally, as of 2022, it is estimated that a person has a 1 in 265 chance of developing melanoma by the age of 85. What are the causes and risk factors associated with melanoma? Despite everyone's love for tanning in the outdoors, the risk of melanoma greatly increases due to frequent overexposure to sunlight and UV radiation. However, just because you may avoid the sun does not mean that you may not be at risk of developing the cancer later in life. Other contributing risk factors can include a large number of unusual moles called dysplastic nevi, a family history of skin cancers, and even a depressed immune system. Now, as we know, skin cancers can occur when cells are damaged by excessive exposure to UV radiation from the sun, and when these cells begin to grow out of control, they can spread through the dermis and into the lymph nodes. This is why there are some instances where people develop melanoma on less exposed parts of the body, like the palms, soles of their feet, or even inside the nostrils and under their nails. Just because you may not have been sunburnt as many times does not mean that you aren't susceptible to developing melanoma in other parts of your body. Did you know that a study was conducted in Queensland between 2005 and 2009 that showed that more people died as a result of thin melanomas rather than thicker ones, which were around 4 millimeters in thickness, around 23% as opposed to 14%. And between 1990 and 2009, most people that died of melanoma first presented with thin melanomas that only later transformed into thicker melanomas. What we learn from this is that the preconceived notion that the thicker the melanoma, the more likely the incidence of death, is an outdated view on the progression of the disease, and further studies recommended to determine the underlying cause of this change. Just because a mole seems small and insignificant does not mean that you should dismiss it entirely.
The good news is it can be simple and straightforward to manage and prevent. You can keep on top of it by simply knowing your ABCDEs, standing for asymmetry, borders, colour, dimensions, and evolving. Over the years, the Australian government has run many different campaigns to provide awareness for melanoma and reduce the incidence of cancer. Slip Slop Slap was introduced in 1981 by the Cancer Council and began their SunSmart campaign. The campaign's objectives are to raise awareness, improve behaviour and surrounding sun safety, support priority populations and advocate for strategies that help to reduce the health and economic burdens of skin cancer. Since its introduction, Slip Slop Slap has continued to be revamped to appeal to newer generations and has now become Slip Slop Slap Seek Slide. This campaign is now used in many countries, including New Zealand, the US, the UK, Denmark, and Ireland. Slip Slop Slap has not even been applied to schools, implementing No Hat No Play, and trade sites implementing signage and hat requirements. Here is the original video of Sid the Seagull.
The sun's shining down, so desperate to brown, but skin cancer isn't so hot.
SunSmart has run other campaigns including No Tan is Worth Dying For. Following the death of Claire Oliver in 2007, this campaign was run in order to raise awareness surrounding the dangers of solariums or tanning beds. Following the campaign, tanning beds were banned entirely from Australia. Last year, National Skin Cancer Action Week was held on the 21st to the 27th of November. This was to call on the government to invest in a skin cancer awareness campaign, as Australians have become complacent, despite the statistics remaining high. In conclusion, melanoma remains a major issue for Australians, especially teenagers, as 26% of teens say they are sunburnt on summer weekends between 2016 and 2017, and 1 in 5 of those aged between 18 and 24 reported that they did not use any sun protection while outdoors. We hope that the Cancer Council continues to push the government to raise awareness about this deadly disease.